This morning, we're going to begin again, of course, at the Vatican with the ceremonies honoring the life of Pope Francis. His coffin is now on public display for 3 days. Thousands of people are lining up at St. Peter's Basilica to get a glimpse of the Pope. Senior correspondent Nora O'Donnell is in Rome. She's leading our coverage there, of course. Nora, good morning to you. It's no surprise to see the outpouring for the Pope.
Yeah, good morning to you, Gail. That's right. We were actually just down in St. Peter's Square, and boy, the lines are long. This is a somber moment for the Roman Catholic Church, but the sentiment from the faithful here is gratitude. Just in talking to people, there's a sense of pride in who Pope Francis was and how he led the church. The public can now pay their respects, and cardinals led this morning's procession as pallbearers carried the Pope's relatively modest coffin from the residence where he lived through St. Peter's Square along the very same route he traveled in his Pope-mobile on Easter Sunday, the day before he died. Crowds, as I mentioned, gathering here in St. Peter's Square, many of them since the early hours of this morning to pay their respects. They have until midnight tonight and then again tomorrow. The wait, we are told, is about 4 hours. But one woman told us Catholics will wait however long it takes, stop what they're doing to thank Pope Francis for, in her words, changing the church. Now, as the coffin was taken into St. Peter's Basilica, bells began to toll and a ripple of applause broke out from the crowd. It was quite a sight to see. The Pope will lie in state until his funeral on Saturday. And Chris Livesay is here with a look at those funeral plans. And Chris, what a morning it has been here in Rome.
Indeed. Good morning, Nora. Well, world leaders from President Donald Trump to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky are set to come to Rome for the funeral of Pope Francis. And like most things about Pope Francis, that funeral will be a lot different than usual.
Nothing in the 2 millennia of Catholic Church inspires more pageantry than the death of a pope.
Always dramatic, great pomp, great circumstance, steeped in tradition.
But Francis was none of those things, and last year instructed that long-standing traditions be toned down. Gone are the 3 elaborate nested coffins. Francis is in a simple wood coffin lined with zinc.
The people's pope gets a more people's coffin.
But again, another change. In the past, popes would be laid out on a decorated pedestal.
Not this time. Francis declared he should be seen as a simple disciple of Christ, and buried as one too.
Again, a change, because Pope Francis has made it clear that he does not wish to be buried at St. Peter's Basilica as previous popes.
Francis will instead be laid to rest in St. Mary Major, his favorite church in Rome. The archpriest here told us he personally helped with that break from tradition and said the Pope received divine guidance from the Virgin Mary herself.
And he was telling, Mary told me, prepare your tomb. And he told, I was so glad that Mary didn't forget me. And he told, please find a place and I will come to see, and I want to be buried here.
And that's been the papacy of Pope Francis.
A change maker in death as in life. Now, to get his remains from here in St. Peter's all the way over to St. Mary Major is going to take a very long procession. Remember, it's on the other side of Rome, and once it gets there, it's going to have a very modest tomb. He didn't even want it to mention that he was Pope. He just wants one word on it, Nora: Francis.
I have been to that basilica. It is quite beautiful. Chris Livesay, thank you very much. And I have to tell you guys, last night we were invited to pay our respects to Pope Francis. We went into the chapel at Casa Santa Marta there with nuns and priests and those who knew the Holy Father well. Gail?
Boy, Nora, you know, Cardinal Dolan told us the other day, the best way to convert souls is to touch hearts. And we certainly know that this Pope touched a lot of hearts, including yours. What was it like for you to be in that room?
You know, it was honestly spiritual. We stood just feet away from his body. It was silent, except for the sounds of really some hushed prayers, and there were tears, of course. One little girl was crying as she left. It really was a full circle moment for us, because it's actually a year ago tomorrow that we interviewed Pope Francis in Santa Marta in the room next to where we paid our respects. A priest said to us it was a sign of God. And when we left, we got this prayer card to remember that moment. They were handing that out. So it was incredible just to see him up close and say a prayer.
I'll say it's one of those lifetime experiences that you get sometimes in TV news. Nora, thank you so much. We will bring you the funeral, of course, of Pope Francis on Saturday in a CBS News special report. Coverage begins at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, 1 o'clock Pacific Time, right here on CBS, and streaming on CBS News 24/7 and, of course, Paramount+.